Okay, what are we talking about? What are we torquing?
Well, do we pretend that we've been here the last 2 weeks, or do we explain ourselves?
Do we need to explain?
Oh, no. Just want to talk about basketball coaching.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we could do that.
The question is, you saw the news, I'm sure, of Disney axing
Oh, yeah.
their CEO and bringing back
Yep.
Bob Iger. Do you have thoughts on that?
Not really. I mean, I think they need somebody who can be woke and make money.
Ooh. So people have been trumpeting it as a failure of the woke, like go woke, go broke.
Nope.
That's not at all that.
No.
Okay, so what is happening? Is it just he was bad at being the CEO of
Yeah.
Disney?
Just means the share price happened to be in a bad place for a minute. Then people freak out. Now, why was that? Was that because of a concentration of political ideology in entertainment there? Sure, it could have been. It's not like this is a change away from that.
Yeah, because
This is to a far more. This is to a guy who has been more sophisticated with it over time. Has shown that he can do that and not lose a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So whether he's able to do that right now remains to be seen. But there's no reason to think that they're going to change course.
They're just going to be smarter about it.
Yeah. So they're going to try to be.
Sure.
I think it actually could also just be the elevation of the climate. So it could be completely separate from actual tactical skill shown in the past. It just, this moment is so charged. Mm-hmm. And so this moment is so charged, and so Disney wasn't growing the way they want to grow.
Yeah, wasn't there a report that they were looking at Disney Plus making money by the end of 2024 or something like that?
I don't even remember.
I think it was just like way far away from being a profitable thing.
Yeah,
of course
they're doing great though. The way subscription models affect your valuations as a company. Yeah, it's like all those things. They're doing great.
Nice.
They are not nice or not. I'm not commenting on that. I mean, like they're not about to die. They're not about to dwindle and die. They're going to be around.
Yeah.
For some time now.
So you don't chalk this up as a DeSantis scalp. This is just market.
Yeah, no, I mean, sure, DeSantis can put a little notch in his wall if he wants to, but no.
Right. Disney's still in Florida.
Yeah, Disney's still in Florida. So when Georgia did, I don't remember which bill it was, but Georgia pushed a bill and they had their film tax incentives, which meant they'd brought tons of industry to Georgia from Hollywood. And then Marvel and others flexed saying, we're not going to film in Georgia anymore. We're going to pass on your amazing, lucrative tax incentives and apply all this pressure to you politically. And everybody was mad about the corporation lobbying and whatever else. Oh, but that worked. It was far more effective. Now, so for DeSantis, it didn't. Mm-hmm. He didn't cave, but they just had much deeper roots there.
Yeah.
Like film studios, where you film in a film studio, where you get your tax incentives, there's so much competition in that front, and so many people lined up to handle Marvel.
Yeah.
To handle something like that. While Disney World's been there for a minute. Like shuttering that and saying, we are moving to Connecticut.
Yeah.
It's like that's just not gonna,
right.
It's not as feasible. It's not as on the table. So DeSantis had a better hand.
Right.
And so it's kind of like somebody won a game of slapjack. There's not a ton of skill. It just
you slapped faster.
you slap the jack. Congrats. I mean, there's a little bit there. Good, well done.
Good.
Kudos. But it's not. It's kind of like just the way the cards were aligned. As you're going. This was this moment in time. So I don't think it's that. Well, let's make up a word. It's not that portentous.
Portentous. Okay. Yeah. No, that's good. Well, okay. Speaking of portentous, a question we got that was kind of interesting is someone was wanting us or you to talk about future, like thinking about the future. They mentioned 500 years, which I thought was which was a little too far to be thought about. But I think how do you approach
WALL-E?
Trash everywhere. The trash everywhere, or the being cleaned up of the trash?
The muscular atrophy.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I actually think there's no way we could possibly know. I mean, there's no there's just we can try to predict little things. I mean, every now and then I have a 10-minute prediction. I'm just a little ways ahead of myself.
Yeah, you're batting pretty well right now.
And
I can just say.
I'm happy about it. I've got some like goldfish prophetic ability, like inside a small bowl. But trying to go across centuries is ridiculous. Other than the gospel will triumph, and the knowledge of the Lord will continue to cover the earth. I think that 500 years from now, if I was going to put money on it, I would say that Africa will be a massive, thriving Christendom, and we will be, just like way down in the food chain.
Yeah,
we'll be about in the pecking order politically than where Italy is now.
Yeah, and you're tracking that based on Rome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
fun.
I think it's like, what happens to empires that just get fat and lazy and entitled? They rot.
Atrophy.
They rot and die. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So, and I also think we'll be mostly brown. And and that'll be good.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, 500 years, you're thinking things will be better than things are now.
Yeah.
How about
not for the US of A as an institution, but for the church, for humanity, and so on. Yeah, I think it'll be better.
What about looking out decades into, as a dad or as a career, looking like decades out? Is that a more interesting conversation to dive into? Find out how do you drive your own story in that direction?
Oh, gracious.
This is a mean question to do to someone on a Monday afternoon, but
yeah, that's a tough one. But as far as reading my own story goes, we've actually had this conversation a lot in terms of marketing or positioning or strategies in different ways. Is you have to operate as if bad things are happening. Like you have to prepare. So if you're preparing, I'm now basketball coaching, with thus some of our delays in getting out SASFs. But as you're thinking about a team and you're looking forward, a team you're going to face, you can't say maybe they'll just be easy.
Oh yeah.
Let's plan as if it's going to be easy.
Maybe we'll hit half our threes.
Let's scheme and let's scheme and let's practice. I just watched I was just at a Washington State University basketball game and where they hit a program record 19 threes.
Whoa.
Yep. And they, as a team, were 100% from the 3-point line through the first 10 or 11 minutes.
Wow.
There's just nothing. There's nothing you can do if you're a team going into a game. You cannot plan for that.
Yeah.
On either side. Now, if you're the opponent, you need to say they hit 15 against Eastern Washington right before. We have to assume they're going to be hitting from the 3-point line. They did the opposite. The team they were playing sat back in a zone at the beginning. It was like,
go ahead,
shoot. Go ahead, shoot the three. You ran out in your last game, but then no, they just ran. They just rained. So they did do the exact wrong thing. You have to plan as if they're going to be excellent. You have to plan as if your opposition is going to be excellent, efficient, and so on. You don't go into it just hoping that maybe they'll suck, right. And you just can't do that. And whatever you aim for, you want as a character in your life, you want to aim for things that if you fall short, you will have gotten farther and done more than you would have otherwise. So you aim for those really ambitious goals because if you come up short, you're still overshooting that lower goal that was easily achieved. And I've seen a lot of kids, young athletes, but I see it in adults too, who defend themselves against emotional disappointment as characters, like these kids with characters, by not setting real goals, by not striving, by not wanting. If they can turn off the wanting, then they can turn off the disappointment when they don't get what they want. And as all things do these days for me in my work life, everything comes back around to David. King David did a great job of wanting. Like that was a guy who wanted and put himself out there and really went for it. And people talk about the depth of his mourning and all that kind of thing. It's like, well, that's where the toughness comes. The toughness is in not necessarily in the fight, but in the disappointment, in the failure, in the screw ups.
So you're thinking Saul puts up, "Hey, marry a princess," and David says, "I want that." Is that kind of what you're thinking of? He says, if
I'm thinking of like David back in Jesse's house. I'm thinking of David, like how much this kid has always just wanted and gone for it and been willing to risk everything. So when he kills a lion as a kid, we're told that he took it by the hair. Like he killed this lion in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
So he didn't hit it with a sling from distance. He went in and went in there, given the age, historically, probably with a stone knife.
Oh, really?
He most likely was like,
okay, yeah, because they wouldn't be carrying around metal knives out.
They had to go. We're teetering in metallurgy, and the Philistines had it, and we know the Israelites later they had to go to the Philistines for their metal. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a kid who's not currently in a high responsibility, high honor position out in the fields. He would probably be working with a flint knife.
Yeah.
He's holding a sharp rock. And
there's a lion.
Yeah. And he goes after a lion. Yeah. Like, this is a teenage kid who goes after the lion. Now, what is he risking?
Yeah.
Literally everything. Like, he's literally putting everything out there. Mm. And if you do live in those stories and you live in your own stories by faith, trusting God that you are trying to behave faithfully and do what he wants for you, then you should be living with maximum aggression. Like, you should really be pushing as hard as you possibly can, and you should be tough enough to handle the emotional disappointments.
Yeah.
In your interaction with God after failures.
Right.
And this is not even the Bathsheba failure. Think about David's Robin Hood years. David having to live with the Philistines. Mm-hmm. David having his wife given away to another man.
Yeah.
It's like, this is, okay, Samuel anointed him. He kills Goliath. He's a hero. He loves Saul like a father. I don't think his relationship with Jesse was great. I think we can see that in the text. It wasn't good. His relationship with his brothers was not good.
Yeah, that's because they fought him. They were not happy to see him, right?
No, you're 40 days at the battlefield and your brother shows up with food. Like, he shows up with supplies, and Eliab just lights into him.
Yeah,
it's like
you just wanted to see the battle.
They were not happy.
And then Jesse didn't call him.
No, and when Samuel says, "Bring me all the sons of Jesse," then nope, not this one.
Noticeable absence.
No, we know there's a noticeable absence. So, but the point is that David really, really goes. He really, really strives.
Yeah.
And you see this in sports especially, which is why I've relied heavily on sports and a lot of child rearing and the lessons of sports, because the first lesson is to try to get a kid to really, really want it.
Yeah.
That's actually the hardest one in our era, in our day. Mm-hmm. The hardest thing to get is for a kid to burn with desire for excellence.
Yeah.
With a desire to achieve. Like, getting that
man,
is incredibly difficult. And the reason why is because burning that way comes with a counterpoint of the intensity of disappointment.
Yeah.
It can be fun to really, really want something. And that you can get there and enjoy that. But what comes is you're never going to win everything. And the despair, the sadness comes, and then there's those lessons. And so your goal is to be the kind of character of the next 20 years in your life who is ambitious and aggressive, not bunkered down, your head's not in the sand. Yeah. You're not pulling your arms and legs into your shell. Like, you're not in a defensive posture. Like, actually aggressively go accomplish things for God, for your community, for your family. Go do, and want it.
Right.
Want it with intensity, and have the resilience and toughness to take your disappointments to God, and then receive them and walk away. Receive the no's. Receive the no's from God, but don't receive the no's from God until it's sure. until it's
No.
like, no,
Yeah.
he said no. And
This is
man, you prayed you were going to win this game. And he said, no, you prayed you were going to have a massive tax-free inheritance for all your children. And you didn't.
yeah.
It's like, it didn't happen.
Yeah. Too many people are the high school kid who just runs the plays.
Yeah.
You look back and you thought, oh, what was I doing? And you're like, well, I was just running the play because that's what I had to do next. And I tried to run the play the best possible. But you're like, no,
Just
you're
going through motions.
You're trying to win the game. You gotta.
Yeah. So think about this. If I've got, I saw a lot of this when I was coaching track last year, which I really enjoyed doing. But when I had all my athletes try to set goals for the season, about half of them threw out farcical goals.
Farcically low or
High.
fast? Oh, okay.
Just farcically high. And which is a protection against like
Failure.
protection against achieving them.
Because you're never going to be running.
That's not even
under
possible.
50-second.
Yeah, so
400.
nobody
Yeah.
can really, nobody can really blame me, and I can't blame myself. It was It was always a joke. We're gonna achieve these great things. The kids who have nerve, the kids you want, are the ones who set goals that are out of reach, barely. Where they know it's going to be vomiting and work and diligence that's going to get them to that.
Yeah.
And it's possible to have achieved, and it is possible, but barely.
Yeah.
It's there. And then when you come up short, and many of them did come up short of those goals. When I worked with them and they set these goals, they came up barely short. They still had wildly improved on their personal records, like by a lot. Like they had gone so much farther than if they would have if they'd set a farcical goal. If it had just been
Gotcha.
impossible, or if they set an easy goal. I had a couple athletes who set an easy goal just like right there. It's right here. I want to barely improve. And so fathers especially, but moms, it's one of those things. You have to see the whole story. So if you say, moms, my goal is to the next 20 years to never stress out at my husband or blow up at my kids again.
Yeah. Farcical goal.
Yeah. Yeah, right. But the
20
thing
years.
that's funny about things like that is those are set by God. There are these these impossible ones. Now what you can do is you can make the time frame 20 years and make it so impossible that
Right.
you fail day one and
Give up.
Yeah. And you throw in the towel and it's like, well, that was never possible.
Right.
It's like your goal, but you need to set that destination of what kind of person do you want to be?
Yeah.
What kind of thing do you want coming out of your mouth if and when you have Alzheimer's? It's like,
Yeah.
what do you want your heart to be like?
Yeah.
Where do you want to be? And so,
And it's for sure true that it's easy to say, hey, I don't want to, when I get home from work today, I don't want to be frustrated with my kids. That's a laughably easy goal,
yep.
as opposed
And I want
to
to do it again. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And I would highly encourage guys, women. I don't know your psychology as well, but I think this would help some of you. But guys, if you have set a goal, it's like, and I need to change this behavior. You need to log your failures. Like, it's like, put it on the wall with a date next to it. Like, you got annoyed at your kids. You should have the mental discipline of having to go to the calendar and actually write it on there. Anger. Like there's the date. Like, I confessed it. It's done. That's what happened. And then just have that discipline and just be like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to stay calm. I'm not going to let myself go there. And then when you've messed up again, you're going to go back and you're going to put it on the calendar. And it's like, okay, you made it. How long did you make it? You don't want those distances between incidents like that. And I'm talking about like smaller sin issues here. If you have bigger ones you need to be working with, if these explosions are real big, you should be working with the pastor and doing what he says. But like, if you're talking about sanctification, you're talking about mistakes, like tracking that. I'm a big believer in stats. I'm a big believer in objectivity wherever you can get it. And we tend to get it in fewer places than we actually could.
Oh, that's a true one.
Yeah. We don't.
Because when you start looking into the numbers, sometimes they say what you didn't want them to say.
Yeah, exactly. It's like let's not count these. Let's not count these things.
Yeah.
So right now we're going into the Christmas season, and it's a reasonable goal for people to say, I am not going to stress out. I am not going to stress out this season.
Yeah.
I'm going to be peace for my family, not a disruptor of peace for my family. I will not grow angry. And I'm going to not just like hold my breath and try to get there via willpower. I'm going to try to get there by intentionally living in all of my moments and all my days in a way that has an external observation. So I'm watching myself and I'm logging how I'm doing.
And the Holy Spirit is right there along with you.
No, I don't need you journaling. I don't need you writing big long diaries, because that usually goes badly. It usually doesn't help. And we're usually not super observant about ourselves.
Yeah.
But when you've crossed the line you didn't want to cross, like put a little red dot on the calendar. Like that's just like, boop, December 7th.
Yep.
I screwed
you did
up.
not become the Advent peace.
Yep. And ask yourself if you made it all right. Like, did you confess your sin to God, to your wife, to your kids? It's like, but put it up there. It's like if you're a complainer, if you're a whiner, it's like, and wives, husbands, I don't care who, if you are a complainer, this is something you deal with, then ask your spouse or ask a friend, ask a roommate, whoever you are, whatever level you are, to tell you when you're doing it. Like, hey, when I start doing this, could you, here's your safe word. Like this is, and then go put a red dot on the calendar and just and confess it and get right and pick yourself up and keep going.
Yeah.
So as a coach of a basketball team now this season, I knew I wanted a Bible verse, like kind of a theme for the season. And I was flopped on a mattress in a mattress showroom, and a salesman went by with Proverbs 24:16, the reference, tattooed on the back of his arm, on his tricep. And I immediately thought, that's the one. That's what we're doing. A righteous man falls 7 times and rises again.
Okay.
But the wicked will fall by calamity. I have a young team. We're going to fall, and we're going to fall constantly. There's going to be constant screw ups. The righteous man rises again. What you don't want to be is that guy who is like, I don't want to look at porn. I don't want to look at porn. I don't want to look at porn. Oh crap. I looked at something I shouldn't have. And so, while I'm dirty, I may as well just give myself permission to, misbehave for weeks before I repent. I'm here already. I'm down here in the septic pond already.
Yeah.
This happens with all kinds of sins.
Yeah.
So you've told a lie. It came out of your mouth quickly. It was a deception. Now's your moment to recall it, to confess it, to pull it back. But you can just let it ride, which inevitably means more deception. It always gets bigger and thicker and, and builds. A complaining spirit does the same thing. Stress begets stress. Failure begets failure, and success begets success. The longer you succeed, the easier success is. The more you fail, the harder it is to fight that. It just cascades. And so the key is to rise again, to confess it and push.
Yeah.
And I do think long-term goals are great. Like I have goals for when I'm 50. I'm 44 and I've got my 50-year-old goals. And when I'm getting there, I'm going to set goals for 60.
Okay. So you're on a decade schedule right now?
Yeah. So I set those goals, but I also have like month goals, like month goals, quarter goals, 12-month goals. And I'm always measuring those as success or failure. Those are always logged.
So what I'm hearing is that there are 2 kinds of failure, and one of them's like a big gift. Like the failure of not hitting a goal or a target is actually a gift. It helps you see yourself clearly and evaluate and move. And I guess a moral failing then obviously is not a gift, but is that how you look at it as well? If you set it,
a moral failing is an opportunity to act in faithfulness and righteousness now. Like, how do you behave faithfully after a moral failing? Like, that's a different lesson and a different question than how do you behave faithfully after 3 straight days of not blowing up at your roommates. It's like, okay, the next time she leaves a dish, like I'm going to not stress out about it. In fact, I'm going to wash it and put it away. Like, that's what I'm going to do. You've done that 3 days in a row, and you're like, well, what's the next lesson? It's like, we'll do it for another week. It's like, that's the next lesson. Keep on going. But when you've actually blown up, the lesson is humility and honesty. Like, can you humble yourself and confess your sins? Can you do that? And then rise again, and then rise again, and then rise again. And God's in the habit of raising the dead. So there's not us trying to crawl back up out of the pit. It's us being, lifted.
So the concept of failing forward is another one that you've heard a lot. How do you fail forward with like a missed objective? Like that sort of thing. I guess when you're
there's a lot of ways.
evaluating-
I mean, that's a really big question, because it totally depends on the failure. And I'd say step one is trying to analyze like the game film really honestly and accurately.
We were in a zone. They shot 19 3-pointers.
We knew they were a 3-point shooting team, and we decided to come out in a zone. That kind of thing.
Right.
So if you are talking about finances in your household, if you're talking about spiritual health in your household, like that kind of thing, the first step is absolute honesty about the outcome. The first place that we wobble is in fairly assessing what happened. In sports, it's a great artificial ecosystem in which life lessons can be learned and catechized, because everyone hurts, everyone fails, everyone is tempted to pride, tempted to embarrassment, tempted to shame, tempted to excuses. And you can just try to eradicate these behaviors in these different ways, successfully or unsuccessfully. It provides you the venue to try to target these things in an artificial setting. But it also provides you the venue to try wanting and desiring and pursuing something that is not guaranteed to you, that you are not entitled to, but you're gonna strive for it. We move into our households, and we want to get more disciplined financially. We want to get out of debt. We want to do these different things. We have to analyze the game film. If you say, hey, I want to have all the credit cards paid off by July, you need to actually like put mile markers down and make your goals falsifiable. It's like, I want to do this. I want to do this with my kids. And when you decide to do something with your kids and pursue something with your kids, you should be also saying, this all makes me sound very analytical, and I'm actually not, which is kind of funny. I'm very narratival. And I've got the analytical side, but when you are setting goals, I never set goals or hypothesize the fruitfulness of a particular operation without setting falsification standards.
Gotcha.
So, like, we're going to do this. Like, as a family, let's do this. Now, you can just pick something out of sentimentality and just do it. Or you can say, if this goes right, what fruit will we see? If this goes wrong, what negative things will we see?
Okay.
So we're going to start having a Sabbath dinner. Like, if this goes right, what will you start to see? If you're doing it wrong, what will you start to see? And actually set those markers so that you can falsify your own behavior. You can falsify your own tactics and techniques and refine and improve what you're doing. And so when my parents started doing Sabbath dinners, it was very much, if this goes right, we're going to keep family love and loyalty. There's going to be a lot of contact, a lot of unity across the branches of the family as our kids started to get married. If it goes wrong, people will start feeling guilty for missing. Like, this has to be guilt-free. Like, it has to be a get to, not a got to, is what our parents were very fond of saying. We get to come together and have dinner together. We do not have to. There is no guilt lever. There is no accusation. There is no complaint. Nobody ever guilt levers anyone out of sentimentality of why couldn't you make it? It's like, it just does not happen. Now, if it started to happen where there was a guilt lever there, that would be a falsification of how it was being executed. So if you have fruit in that falsification, you have to change your technique. So,
gotcha.
It's sort of if your kid is sports obsessed and is really good at wanting, but you actually don't teach him any emotional control at all. And so he frustration fouls people. He mouths off to refs. he cries, he bawls after losing, and you're seeing no progress. It's like, well, you're not using sports right then. Like he's got all the desire and the fire and none of the self-control. And you have to get him all the self-control or else this is pointless and you should be doing something else. He should be home playing video games. It's like it's just in a dark room with no one to complain to.
No refs. Well, he'll be complaining to the screen.
And that's actually, that's a not a real example, but you're not getting any of the benefit. If your kids aren't learning to struggle and suffer, to rejoice in the struggle, and then to rejoice and be grateful to God in failure, and then throw themselves back into the struggle for success, chasing that success. If they're not doing that, then you're not learning the lessons. So anyway, I think 10-year goals are great. 20-year goals, maybe. I know where I want to be as a grandfather, what kind of grandfather I would like to be. And I'm generally trying to aim that direction, but there's so much out of our hands. It's like, there's health concerns, there's car wrecks, there's all sorts of things that we can't control in our own stories. Yeah. So, I mean, you asked a 20-year goal question. So there goes the long harangue about that.
Well, I mean, I think that's really all we wanted to cover today. I mean, it's a quick one. It feels like the goal question, like how do you set it? How do you evaluate it? I was trying to think how to apply it to novels, but it seems obvious. It's like, it's character-based work.
Yeah, lots of character-based work. And actually novels, people who are trying to write novels, it's a besetting sin to over-explain what is on the page to readers who don't get it, like it's their fault. And to not receive edits or criticisms or anything. It is born into the world like your own child and cannot be criticized. So when you invite your family into the nursery and they start criticizing your baby, that's not done among the best families. But
novels are not
babies. Are not that.
Yeah,
they aren't that. And so I've seen so many novelists, especially aspiring novelists, change their goals as they're writing. It's like they're trying to write, I'm going to write a book that fill in the blank does this, and then they're missing it. So they're like, you know what, can we move that goalpost over here? This is what I'm now trying to accomplish. I'm now kicking the ball through those posts, not those posts that I set earlier. Now, it's possible to change your goal, but you should do it honestly and openly. Because the previous goal was inferior and you discovered something better, not because you can't hit it. And so you're going to move the bullseye to where you hit.
I'm bad at high fantasy, so I'm changing to satire fantasy. I've sometimes seen that sort of move happen where you're doing a particular real thing, but realize that you're failing to make realistic characters. So you then make the characters, I don't know what the word is. Well, I guess satirical is the word.
When people fail in relationships, they often do the same thing. So not just novelists, it's like, I want to be salt and light in my office. I'm praying for an opportunity to share the gospel with so-and-so. The opportunity presents itself and you do nothing. I was like, okay, so now I'm just trying to exude light. I'm just trying to be present. I'm not actually here to proselytize. And you watch people be handed the opportunity that they were saying they wanted, and then they got scared. Yeah. And they pivot. They pivot away. And guys do this with financial goals. Wives do this with domestic goals and financial goals. Where it's like you set a goal when in the emotion-free vacuum of that State of the Union meeting you had at the beginning of the month. Right. And then as soon as you missed it, you're like, that was dumb.
I want to keep the kitchen clean every day this month.
Yep.
And then,
And then there's just anger at Johnny for not doing it for you or for having made more messes than he picked up. That kind of thing. Now, sometimes the goals are dumb. Yeah. And should not have been set in the first place. And when you realize that, you should take account of that. But a lot of times it's like, let's pay off our debt. Well, except for this vacation. We really needed this one. Let's put this on the card. And we're going to do that. Now, there's nothing immoral about that, but people love to just stop keeping track. Yeah. Set a goal and stop keeping track.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is kind of a dark example, but Ananias and Sapphira is an example of lying to yourself
Yeah.
and pretending. Well, it would have been fine for them not to give the entire purchase price of their property to the apostles, but the fact that they said they were going to and then didn't.
Yep.
That, I think, that's a bigger example of what you're talking about, where you told yourself you're going to do this and then you undercut yourself. You Ananiased yourself.
No, this is when ministries are raising donations for a project. There's an algorithm of how many promises and pledges won't come through. Like there's how many pledges that will be banked because they know how many people will commit that exact sin.
Okay.
Like just by percentage, and it's much higher than it should be. It's like it's like 20% of people who will say they're going to give something, then don't. I don't remember. I'd have to pull it back up and actually look at all the research, but it's baked in to the actual like capital campaign. Like when you're going to go raise money for a Christian school or for a church, you cannot count your pledges and say, these are coming because Christians promised us this. Like, no, that is not, they bought a car instead. They did something else instead. Or something went wrong. I mean, there'd be a small percentage of people would be like, I have to be excused from this because our house burned down. Like that kind of a thing. That's a margin too, but that's not 20%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm going to give this land to this Christian school. I promise. When? Now would be great. And then it's like, well,
actually parmist, that old
maybe
joke.
when I die, he says when he starts developing it.
Yeah.
It's like that. Suddenly it's a little different. So this is the kind of thing, you tell your kids you'll get them a puppy when fill in the blank, and then that happens. You're like, I hope they don't notice. Like that we all do this.
Yeah.
And it's bad. we shouldn't do it. It's terrible character work. Those are your least favorite characters on the page.
Readers don't forget, but children will.
Yeah. Just don't be that person. So my sister and her husband got their kids a dog last year. And named her Maybe because the kids had always asked for this dog and the parents had always said maybe. It's like, so then Maybe showed up.
Nice.
so Maybe's running around.
That's fun.
And also they thought it'd be funny to yell like maybe sit. Like maybe sit. Like maybe like have accounting for a badly behaved dog, which they got incidentally. She's hilariously bad. But it's it's funny. But as far as living your own stories go, goals, etc. Step one is honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty. And then a righteous man falls 7 times and you get back up and you keep going.
Also, the flint knife is step number 2 or
Step
3.
number 2. Step number 1 is have the kind of fire burning in your belly that makes you want to go kill the lion. That makes you want to set goals for your family that are just a little farther than you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Step 2 is the flint knife. Step 3 is the game film.
Yeah.
And emotional control and
while
disappointment.
the lion is gnawing on your neck.
Yeah. How encouraging is that?
Yeah.
All y'all go kill the lions and find out if God wanted you to be successful.
Mm-hmm. And he does.
Yeah, he does. Sometimes it's not that lion he wanted you to kill. It might have been the lion of pride.
Yeah.
As you fail catastrophically or whatever. But this has been our return SASF.
Yeah.
As my schedule has been thrown akimbo.
Yeah.
With basketball practices. So
a Christmas opener.
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll get the rhythm.
Yeah. That's good.